This is my take on Japanese curry. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is prepare the chicken. Okay, so one of the chickens I'm gonna make into cutlets, and then the other chicken I'm gonna make lightly crispy. So the first thing to do is pat them dry. The reason why I'm doing the chicken first is because for the lightly crispy one, I'm gonna marinate it. And so the lightly crispy one, I'm just gonna stick on my tray that I'll be using later. And then I'm gonna stick some mirin and some soy sauce. So it's not that much, it's just a little bit for some hidden flavor and some umami. For this other piece of chicken, we're just gonna slice it in half this way. So that way it makes 2 cutlets. Be careful not to cut your fingers. And then we have 2 almost halves. Okay, so here's some rice. I'm gonna use 3 cups. According to my wife, 3 cups of rice is the best in our rice cooker. So we'd probably only eat 2 cups or maybe 1 cup, which yields 2 cups cooked. But I'm also making enough of this so that I have lunch for tomorrow, and then she has some rice. So 3 cups of rice will yield 6 cups. And then you always want to rinse out your rice. When I'm rinsing out my rice, I just do it until it runs clear. Another option is to rinse your rice in like a bamboo basket, so that way the water just strains through. Okay, and now the rice is mostly clear, or the water is mostly clear. So since it's 3 cups, I'm just gonna fill it to the area that says 3 cups of rice for the water. If you don't know, if you're cooking in just a pot, you can also put your finger in it and just do water to the knuckle, and that would be good enough for a pot. Okay, and then now that it's rinsed and it's in there, it's kind of evenly balanced with the rice and distributed evenly, and then we're just gonna set our Zojirushi rice cooker to white rice, and then hit start. I'm doing the rice first because it takes 60 minutes to cook. Okay, so while the rice just started, the next thing to do is to start the vegetables in boiling water, but first we gotta peel and cut them, because if not, they won't be cooked. But pretty much there's a whole order of affairs. So first I'm removing the skin. Okay, next I'm gonna cut these up a little bit. For the carrot, I'm just gonna remove the tips and the end, and then I'm just gonna kinda make almost 1-inch pieces. And that will be good enough for that. And then I'm gonna cut this in half, cut it in half again, cut it in half again, and then cut those pieces in half. And then I'll do the same with this. And then that's good enough. Next, I'm gonna fill my pot with some water. So there's a 600 milliliter line right there. I'm pretty sure the recipe for this calls for 720. So I'm gonna go slightly above the line to guesstimate that much. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn that on. I'm gonna leave it on high heat, or my burner turns off for some reason. But it's just gonna go there, and I'm gonna go ahead and add these to it. And then once it brings to a boil, I'm gonna lower it, and then I'm just gonna let it simmer while the rice is cooking. I'm also gonna add a garlic. Not a whole garlic, but just 1 clove, so that it adds some flavoring. I removed the end so that way it's easier to peel. Now that those are in there, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir. I'd probably use a utensil because this might be hot for you. And then I'll also add a little bit of salt. So as I'm doing this, the stove's still going. I'm next going to do the chicken, but while I'm doing that, before I get there, I'm just kind of cleaning up the workspace a little bit and rinsing some stuff off so that way I don't have to do it later, or it's a pain. So in order to make the chicken cutlets, I'm going to first pat them dry, and then I'm going to put panko and flour in these containers. These are also going to be the containers that I put our leftovers in and tomorrow's lunch in. So I'm just going to do that in this to not make extra dishes, and then rinse them off once we're done. All I'm using is just some extra purpose or all-purpose flour that we're out of. Okay, we ran out of flour, so I'm just gonna use some takoyaki flour and
hope for the best.
Yeah, hope for the best. It'll be good. But we're just gonna pretend this is regular flour. Normally when you're making the lightly crispy one, you'll use a little bit of potato starch, and then it makes it a little bit extra crispy, like karaage. But we don't have that, so we're just gonna have this and then mix it up a little bit. But that'll be enough flour now. Once it's pat dry, we're gonna put it in flour first, and then after it's in flour, we're gonna put it in egg yolk, and then put it into the panko. I'm gonna separate the yolk from it, and then I'm gonna beat that up, and I'm gonna save some of the egg whites to cook for my dogs later. Apparently, if you put garlic on your fingers, you can just pinch and grab the yolk, but I've never been able to do it, so I think it's just one of those TikTok trends. So then we'll save that for the doggos, and then I'll grab another one of these, and then that will go on to the chicken. Okay, so while I was doing this, the thing's starting to come to a boil, so I'm just gonna give that a quick little mix. Stir, stir, stir. Just even it out a little bit. Show it some love. And then I'm gonna let it come more to a boil, and then I'll lower the temperature. Okay, I'm just gonna beat this a little bit, even though you don't really need to, but that's good enough. And then I'll use that to baste it once I do the thing. It's pat dry. Be careful when you place your chicken into the flour, or your flour will go everywhere if you're not in a container like this. I've made that mistake many of time and have made huge mistake. Patting it dry kind of makes this adhere better to it. So that's why I always do it, and then you can also just grab your chicken better as well. So now that chicken's there, the yolk's the best part. It's not sticking, so we're just gonna rub our chicken. You can use the egg whites, and then it will work a lot better. But this, I feel the flavor in the long run is way better. But that's just a personal opinion. It's not backed by science. So now that we got some egg yolks on there, we just stick it in the panko. And then the panko is gonna stick to where all the egg yolks is. And then that goes back there. You can use more eggs if you want to cover more area, but I'm just doing that much so that way the dogs get more egg, because that's good enough for me. And then we'll do the other one later. The other one will go only in the flour and not the panko, but we'll do that much later because we still have 45 more minutes on the rice. So I just poured the leftover panko, the breadcrumbs into here, and the egg whites back into the yolk, so that way it absorbs all of it, and then I'm gonna stir fry this later for my doggos. I'm gonna go ahead and put some of the oil, vegetable oil, into this pan, but I'm not gonna start it yet, and then I'm gonna wait till about 20 minutes are left, so that way I'll just finish prepping and everything, and it'll all be warm and hot and ready to go. So we'll be back in 20 minutes. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I've been cooking the egg right there to make a little treat for the doggos. It's almost done, so I'll be able to, once it cools down, give that to them. I'm gonna start the oil. The goal is to get the oil to like 320 degrees Fahrenheit-ish, or like 200 or 190 Celsius. Pretty much, I'm just gonna get it hot. For the oil, I dropped the temperature down to medium, and then that's just gonna heat up, and then we'll test the temperature later and see what it's at. The potatoes and the carrots I can stab pretty well now, so now I'm gonna add the curry mix, or curry roux, or whatever this is called, to it. You don't want to just stick this in its entirety. It breaks down, but if you want it to mix better, you can break those pieces in half again, and then it mixes better. So we're gonna just throw those in there. A lot of people don't do it how I do it. They spend more time with this, and they'll break it up and then mix it inside of a ladle, so that way its consistency is more even throughout. But I still have 30 more minutes, so I'm just doing it like this, and then I'll stir a bunch in that 30 minutes. Don't worry, you won't have to sit here with me while I'm doing that. Okay. For butter, I'm just going to add a dollop. And then that will mix in there. And then I'll continue to mix this for another 15 minutes. Okay, I've been stirring the curry now, just a little bit like this, back and forth for the last 10 minutes so it doesn't burn and everything's nice and distributed. You don't really have to do that. I was just bored because I'm still waiting for the rice to finish. I'm also going to add some spinach that I rinsed off to the mix, and then that will sit in there as well and break down. And then I'm doing it later so it doesn't get overcooked, but I like spinach in the curry. Okay, so now I'm gonna put the chicken and fry the chicken. Each side, pretty much you just want to do them, once you cut it in half, you only have to do it for a few minutes on each side. If you have it too hot, you're gonna burn the flour in the panko. But the goal is to get it to like 155 internal temperature Fahrenheit or 56 degrees Celsius. Okay, so while that's frying on the first side to cook, I'm gonna remove this chicken. So some of that flavor should have absorbed into this, and now I'm gonna coat it in the flour. So once the other chicken is done, I can fry up this one. This is just my method of doing it. A lot of people have different methods, but I enjoy it this way. Okay, I just rinsed everything out. Now I'm just gonna probe the chicken and see what its temperature is at. So this one is about 108. The little guy, he's at 153 probably. Yep, 153. So we'll pull the little guy off, and then we're gonna flip the big guy one more time. Yeah, he's got about another minute to cook, and then I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the lightly crispy one as well. And then separate them so that way some oil can get around and the heat dispersion is good. Okay, it's been about a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and give these a flip. And you can see it's nice and golden brown. And then while that's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and clean off my cutting board and then dump out my flour and rinse this out, so that way once everything's done, I'll be able to reuse this container without flour in it. Okay, I just flipped the big guy, and then I just probed this one. This one's now at the correct temperature, so I'm gonna pull him off. And he's gonna hang out there. So one thing about this big guy is hindsight is definitely 20/20, and I probably should have chopped him in half and did the same as that one, but it's all right. It's just gonna take longer to cook, so this one will probably be 5 minutes on each side rather than a few minutes on each side. Okay, the rice just finished, and it looks really good. So now that the rice is done, we're gonna mix it up. I don't know why you do it, but that's what you do. Okay, as the chicken's finishing, I'm just gonna go ahead and plate the rice since it's done, so then we can eat quicker. So the rice is just gonna go to half of the plate. And that's about a cup of rice for each one. Okay, the chicken's done. I kind of burnt the one a little bit because the temperature was too high, but the cutlets came out good. We're gonna let these ones cool, and then we're gonna cut up the cutlet and prepare it to plate. One of the other things that you can also do is you can beat your chicken. I typically beat my chicken, but I don't know where my meat hammer was, so I didn't beat my chicken this time. Beating your chicken thins it out, and it makes it more tender. Really crispy one, I'm just gonna cube it up because that's how Coco's does it. And then we're gonna add the curry to the plate. The goal is to keep it separate from the rice so that the flavors don't mix. Okay, now we're gonna add the chicken. The chicken will go on top of the rice. We'll just disperse those pieces. And then we're going to add some cheese. I like the cheese in the curry mix. And I always prefer fresh grated cheese because it's better. And then the last portion is honey. If you have Japanese Worcestershire, that also goes well with it. But we're just going to add some honey. And this is my take on Japanese curry.